Hello, and welcome to a nerdy edition of the Drywall Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Harmon. With us today, Sean Murry out of Dunlin, Florida. Sean is the owner of DRS, Drywall Repair Solutions, and we talk about Intex, we talk about the trade shows, and his involvement with Drywall Nation early on, and we also talk about Walls and Ceilings magazine. So you're kind of a drywall nerd. So when you found out about the Drywall Podcast, you were like, "Oh, okay.
Oh, this is it. Exactly.
Yeah,
this is it."
Yeah.
I listened through. Got Daniels. I got the alien guy from New York. What's his name?
Paps.
Yes, yeah. I got that one. I got the Columbia ones in. Lydia's. I listened to Lydia's. You know, some of the people I didn't recognize the names. I saw some artists.
Sean is a true master of his trade, and I'm glad to have him on the show. The Drywall Podcast is brought to you by Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. Fresco Harmony now available online at CSR to our Canada audience and also globally. You can catch the Drywall Podcast every Friday on your favorite platforms such as Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also YouTube. Without further ado, Sean Murry on the 33rd episode of the Drywall Podcast. Let's get into it. We have Sean Murry from Dunlin, Florida, with DRS Drywall, and he is down in close to Ocala, Florida, Ocala, doing hurricane damage repair. And we were just sort of having a little conversation about the insurance, which I think was kind of an interesting conversation. But before we started talking about the insurance damage, we talked about my Facebook page got hacked.
Yes.
And I lost my personal Facebook account, and you had that happen to you on Instagram, and you were unable to, and you had 5,000 followers. That's a lot. Yeah. How did you get up to 5,000?
Posting something every day.
Okay.
Showing them something that I was doing, a trick that I learned that I could, hey, check this out, try this out. I mean,
you were doing video content?
Somewhat. It was more post back then, I want to say. Now it's more video. The reels are the big thing, or the stories.
Yeah.
But I would post a picture. Like I have I took a little stucco sponge and I made a knockdown sponge, cutting holes in it. I wish I would have brought it. It's actually in the trailer, but I cut out holes for it so I can match knockdown without having to spray it, without having to use a hopper. I have a Graco hopper machine that sprays fantastic.
So you do a little. You do a little.
You put it on the. You take a 6-inch knife. You put it on the sponge. You fill the holes, and then you press it against the wall.
Oh, I love it.
The holes are random. They're little, big, small, oblongs, and I just started cutting holes, and I'm like, because I found a guy in Jacksonville that invented a sponge like that, and he's out of business now. He doesn't sell them anymore. I called him on the phone and I said, hey, I need some more of those sponges. He goes, oh, I don't do them anymore. I'm like, oh gosh. So because I had them all wore out, and the sponge was actually part of the handle, and it would tear. So I took a stucco float and just did the same thing, and so I showed people that, another thing that
what is the name of that video on that's on YouTube? Would you post, or that's just on Instagram?
Yeah.
But that got deleted.
It's gone. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, here's my challenge to go make another one of those videos, because that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. I had Daniel Osborne asking about it. I tell you,
he's
DRR,
the drywall doctor.
The brain surgeon of drywall.
The
is the
brain
man.
surgeon. And the other thing I was going to ask you that I did not start off asking you was, how did you find out about the podcast? Are you an avid listener, or did you approach me?
I actually I followed you from years ago with the Fresco Harmony. You actually sent me some samples,
Okay.
some color samples at one time, and but I went on your YouTube page since then and saw all your videos, and I got to show it to my wife, and we're going to do a wall somewhere. I just don't know where yet.
That's how it starts. I send sample packs to a lot of people, and they'll hold on to the sample pack. But the point of those sample packs, is to actually mix up a bucket of that color, and then do a wall, and that's like that. That's how you fall in love.
Yeah. Well, I saw the wall you did was like a grayish color, and then you put orange in it. You put like an orange color in it. I don't. You have all these names for these colors I've never heard before. So
sure,
sapphire,
of course,
something.
Yeah. Okay.
So it sounds like a true artist color, but it was on your how-to video.
Okay.
And you even suggested if you're doing this for the first time, don't put the extra color in the first time around. But what it attracted it to me was, that's great. It looks like that, but when you did the clear coat over it, all of a sudden it jumped.
No, what people don't realize is the clear coat is a huge part of the process.
Yes.
Like the colored mud, that's your base. That definitely saves you money. But when you put on it's a Fresco Harmony top coat, that finishes it, man. I mean, and then also to the applicators, or when you're applying it, when you put on that final coat, that's really that's what gets you hooked. Like you put on that and you're like, oh, I get it now. This is okay. Mm-hmm. He's putting on the colored mud, but then he's sealing it, and that's like compressing and sanding your wall at the same time.
Similar to burnishing it, when the guys do the Venetian plaster.
Yeah, so or wet. I say wet sanding. It's kind of like that. But you're doing it with edge of your trowel and sealer and liquid, a moist sealer.
Right. Yeah. And you troweled it on the sealer.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, the color is Feinberg sapphire, and the color, the metallic I'm using is a Modern Masters metallic called Gold Rush, and it's a metallic gold. So when you do that swirl, you get these bursts of gold. Really pretty.
It was really cool.
Yeah. And then you use the gold sealer in the finish. You've been following Fresco Harmony for a little while, and then all of a sudden you started seeing this like Drywall podcast stuff pop up.
Yeah, I thought about the same thing years ago when this IV thing started. I said, why we got contractors podcast, you got a plumbers podcast, you got an electrician, why not a drywall guy?
People thought I was nuts, Sean.
No,
when I said I wanted to start, people that aren't in drywall are like, who the hell is going to listen to that?
I am, because I was I'm a Columbia brand ambassador, so I listened. For Aaron and Elliot. They are super guys. I loved working with them. I actually was an ambassador during COVID. So they made me an ambassador in 2020.
Okay.
And they were going to send, we were all supposed to go to the trade show that April, and they were going to take care of everything for us, but everything was shut down. And then the next year came around, everything was shut down again.
You guys were scheduled to go to Intex. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I was going to get to meet everybody, from Drywall by Design, Scott, and then Leah Paluk and Lydia and Kayla, Drywall Queen, finishing queen. Yeah, I've been in drywall so long, and I've been such a drywall nerd.
Okay,
I would go to the Intex shows way before they were like cool. Now they're cool. It's it's a meetup kind of thing, whereas before. I met Elliot and Aaron's dad when he was still part of the company with the first show I went to.
Okay, Bernie.
Bernie. Yes. And
I want to meet. I want to meet him.
I met the guy who invented Straight Flex, the Straight Flex products, John Con.
Sure.
Conboy.
Probably met Scott Murray.
Yes. He was not working. He was not level 5 back then. He was with,
And
I want to say he was doing for Goldblatt at that time. Was he
okay.
designing for Goldblatt? I can't remember.
And
But,
Joe Koenig, probably met him.
Yep. Yeah.
Good guys.
And like I said, I eat that stuff up. I mean, it's like, where is this now? It's cool. It's to do it. But back then, the guys that I knew in town were, you're going to the drywall show. What the heck? Really?
How long ago would you say that was?
It was in Vegas. I want to say it was 2005, maybe 2005,
okay.
4,
okay,
maybe.
Because I went to
maybe
one.
It was 2010. Maybe it was 2010.
I went 2000 when the product first came out. I was like, I'm going to go to this Intex show, and I'm going to launch.
What year
this
was that?
thing. I was like carpet bagging. I still am. Like,
what was that? That was the first year you went.
The product's been out maybe 11 years. So 2011, 12.
Was it in Vegas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they'd move it around every once in a while, because it was in Orlando one year, Miami one year, and then they move it out west. And then actually in Florida's got their own trade show.
Neat.
It's Florida Drywall Contractors or something like that, but it's they put their own on, and they moved that with they got a golf tournament wherever where it's at. And that's funny because Friday morning we all play in a golf scramble. You never heard a golf course in such a way with a bunch of drywall contractors on it.
Yeah. Let me know. I'll come play with you. I'm not that good, but I'll come play with you guys.
Oh, awesome. Sure. Awesome.
Yeah, I would like to go to that show and check it out.
TPC, last year was at TPC Sawgrass at the Jacksonville, where they play the Players Championship. So it was it's fun. You got a bunch of drywall guys hooting and hollering. You could hear them all over the course.
So you're kind of a drywall nerd. So when you found out about the Drywall podcast, you were like, oh, okay.
Oh, this is it. Exactly.
Yeah,
this is it.
Yeah.
I listened through, got Daniels. I got the alien guy from New York. What's his name?
Paps.
Yes. Yeah. I got that one. I got the Columbia ones in, Lydia's. I listened to Lydia's. Some of the people I didn't recognize the names. I saw some artists, some guys that do some. I want to go back and listen.
Yeah, Bernie. You knew who Bernie was, though, right? Bernie Mitchell.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Bernie, Jason Griffin, and Keith.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, phenomenal artists, man. All those guys. It was like. Yeah, very good.
And I think that's what good drywall finishers are. I think they are artists.
Yeah.
And nowadays, because I do repairs mainly, it's a challenge for me to make that repair disappear like you never saw it. That's the challenge. It's like,
I don't think people look at patches like that enough. I mean, so I just do Fresco Harmony patches, so I have to blend the color, which is it's really a bitch. My guy doesn't like doing it. I didn't really like doing it at first, but if you shift your perception and be like, oh, okay, I'm trying to like faux this out and make it go away. I'll make $500 doing a small plaster patch. Nobody wants to touch those. Nope. And I'll tell them, man, I can't guarantee that it's going to look good, but I am an artist. And I have the Fresco Harmony, I can color. I have a couple shades of Fresco Harmony that work great for plaster patches.
Oh, nice.
And I can go in and I can faux it out and then use a sealer, and I can make a patch go away on plaster.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
See, $500 for 20 minutes, man, on a little like patch. And I'm like,
a doorknob hole, from
no guarantees. No guarantees.
Right.
But then they can't fix the plaster because it's like there's no way to fix it. If it's substantial, I'll try to sell them on Fresco Harmony, just reskimming the wall. But like a little patch, I can faux it out and make it look.
Oh, absolutely. that's the challenge. And I love that challenge. When the person goes, I can't even see it. I said, well, wait till you get it painted. You won't even know it was there,
Right.
So I think finishers and repair guys are two different things. A drywall finisher that finishes houses every day, there's an artistry to the repair end of it, where you don't need to necessarily make it as big. You don't have to necessarily bust out that butt joint, 2 or 3 feet to get it to flat. When you're dealing especially with textures, you get let's see, well, I can hide this way, or it's in a spot.
And the sheen
Exactly.
too, coming down the wall. Yeah.
Right. And that's what I tell people, if it's in a corner in a bedroom or something like that, I said that will be no problem. Sometimes if you have a repair in a big ceiling in a living room or kitchen or dining room, I'll say we'll have to reskim that ceiling and respray it, whatever the texture is, to make it match, so.
All right. So you're a drywall nerd. You're kind of a drywall nerd.
Absolutely.
And so
got the Walls and Ceiling magazine. I'm telling you, I go through the whole thing. I look for what tools are coming out that are new.
Okay.
Let
me ask you this. Have you read an article called Adventures in Drywall in the Walls and Ceilings magazine?
Yes.
Okay. Uh-huh. I'm having Kevin Bush on the show Thursday.
Awesome. I can't wait. That's awesome. And then I used to know the guy that wrote the Plaster Man article. You remember the Plaster Man?
No, but we were just talking about that this morning, but he would always I don't know. I should interview that guy too, though.
Yes. He actually had a class or a DVD course that he put together.
Right.
And it was called How to Make $700 a Day Out of a Bucket. And he just had the trowels and tools in the bucket, and he made a DVD course on how to repair old-time plaster and hard coat, where he was at, I guess, in Boston or Connecticut or wherever it was. I know it was up north because we don't see a whole lot of it in Florida.
All right.
But yeah, I can't remember his name now. I just know.
I'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That guy's a character, man. We've talked a couple times now. He's all jazzed about. So I sent Chris, just like you, I sent Chris a sample pack a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I hear back, sometimes I don't. But so recently they're doing a big remodel and he reached back out and we ended up blabbing. He had his uncle, Heath, and then his dad, Kevin. So Kevin Bush was his father. They were both on speakerphone and I start blabbing like I always do. And he was, he's vetting me like, what is this stuff? What is this stuff you're selling? And they ended up buying like $300 worth. He's going to try it on a wall. He's talked to John Wyatt over at Walls and Ceilings. Now I would like to reach out to John and maybe do an interview with him or do a series where I sort of interview these article writers. That would be kind of cool.
That would definitely be cool because I would know who they are. I might be the only one that reads the Walls and Ceiling magazine. I don't know.
Well, I would like to talk to John about that. Maybe we could resurrect, Walls and Ceilings, because I know they do a lot of corporate stuff, a lot of like acoustical tile articles, like weirder articles that maybe we wouldn't be as interested in, but like the drywall articles for sure, I
definitely read Adventures in Drywall and the Plaster Man articles because I would run into, there's a little section of near where I live that a hard coat company did all the drywall or did hard coat in all these houses. And so I always wanted to find out how to do the hard coat, to how to match it, because a lot of that wasn't painted. A lot of that hard coat was done and they didn't paint it. It was all white. Everybody left their walls white because it was, so I would I'd have to use a certain kind. I would match it with drywall mud, but it'd have to be a certain kind that would dry a certain way, that would dry whiter, which usually was the lightweight, the Proform, or the USG, the +3 that dries white. So, but it was always learning the techniques, and I'm left-handed, so most every guy that did hard coat did it right-handed. So I would have to look at the swirl, and then I'd have to do it, trying to get the same look at it,
what I tell people when they do the frescoes, left-handers, I tell to go right to left because you're working into your work. You're keeping your wrist this way as opposed to going. Plaster guys, they love to go backwards like that. And it's a technique thing, and but you'll have more, and also you don't get your knuckles when you get to the wall. You're not putting your knuckles into the next wall that you're going to do. So a left-hander will work right to left across the wall.
I noticed that when in your
right-hander
instructional
works
video,
left
you started
to
left to right. And then I'm looking, well, I'd have to go right to left in order to keep, and
top to bottom. And that's just, those are just techniques. There's no like right or wrong way to do it. I feel like Fresco Harmony, you know, I feel like I get a little bit of resistance from the plaster community. And I'm always talking shit about plaster too. But I think the reality is, that the Fresco Harmony is going to illuminate the possibility of specialty walls. Like it's a gateway drug. Like this is something easy you can do. And then, you know, with Chad Hesher up in Newton, Illinois, he started doing Fresco and now he's doing 3 or 4 different finishes, you know, and you're not limited to like, you know, I'm not trying to take plaster work or anything. I'm just offering a cost-effective way to finish your walls. That's it. You know,
now, have you ever gotten with a decorator? To do that? Yeah. Okay. Because I got a friend of mine. The friend I'm staying with is a wallpaper contractor. Okay. And he works with decorators all the time. Yeah. You know, they'll sell the job and they'll sell a wallpaper to a bathroom or a kitchen or accent walls. And I'm like, okay, man, that Fresco Harmony.
Be careful with that because here's a tip. A tip that I've learned is decorators essentially they're the watered down version of a designer. That's
true. Maybe I misspoke. It was a designer that he's working with.
So designers do not like to be called decorators because they actually have architectural knowledge, and structural knowledge, and they also work with architects. Whereas a decorator comes in and chooses your curtains and stuff like that. There's a little and color.
Designer, yes, that's who the designers are. Will design a bathroom out or an accent wall, and they'll ask for wallpaper. But boy, would it be cool to have a designer with a Fresco Harmony guy on staff, you know, do some sample boards.
I got a call from a designer this morning. So I work with the Home Builders Association through that, which is a fantastic way to get your idea out, is your local HBA. Right. Sales is a big deal. So the HBA, I met a builder, Vineyard Homes, and we have a custom color called Vineyard Pink, but her designer ended up finding out about me, and now I do a lot of work for her designer.
Well, I'll tell you how I found drywall was interesting because finishing wise, my father was an electrical contractor. And as a kid, you know, as I got a little older in the summers, I would work with him during the summers in between school. And of course, I dug every ditch and crawled in every attic for my father. I hated it. I hated it. We were on a new construction job and in a little development. And I went next door because the guy next door was a friend of my father's. And I saw him running a bazooka automatic taper, and I thought, that is the coolest machine I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. And my dad's like, I said, Dad, I think I'd like to do that. Yeah. You know, we grew up in an area where a lot of contractors, a lot of guys I went to high school with, their fathers were contractors. It was just a contractor area. And when I saw him running the bazooka, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to try that. And so fortunately, my dad says, hey, you mind giving my son a shot? And so there it was. And I wasn't allowed to run the bazooka though. I had to learn how to finish by hand first before I was allowed to run the bazooka. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You know, by hand? Oh, what in the world? So how to run the bazooka, he never touched it again. So when I started having people working for me, I would do the same thing. They had to learn by hand
Yeah.
first, and learn how to run corner bead, do tape by hand, run the flats by hand. Then you can run the tools. And then
Okay.
learned how to run the bazooka, I didn't touch it anymore. I just wiped out behind them, rolled and plowed and wiped out behind them. That was,
See, because
and I learned that way. And
there's a big debate about like hand finishers versus the tool finishers, but I think it's not much of a debate because all tool finishers are hand finishers, in my opinion.
right,
Like
yeah,
you got to run corner bead. It just the two go hand in hand. I think that some of these guys that are refusing to run the tools are just stubbornness is more than anything.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because and to all you hand finishers out there, no shame. The tools are a lot of fun.
Yes, yes, they are. They are fun, and I still enjoy running the bazooka on a job. I'll get it out. I'll get mine out for 20 boards just because I love hearing. I love hearing the zzz.
Yeah.
I love hearing it. When I watch videos on YouTube and Instagram, I'll always comment going, "I love that sound of that machine going down the wall." I don't know. I'm, like I said, drywall nerd.
I love it. No, I think your podcast is going to be Sean Murray, the drywall nerd. It's just a natural fit.
Perfect. Yeah, because and that's why I remember on the time we talked about when I went to Intex years ago, I saw those Aplatech tools that run with the air, and they have they call it the cannon, and it pushes the mud out with the air. You turn it off and on at a switch at the bottom. I thought, oh man, where were these when I really wanted to make some money? Not pushing the tools, pushing the boxes or pushing.
You're talking about continuous flow.
No, this was called Aplatech.
Aplatech.
This is different. They have head, 8, 10, and 12-inch heads, but the mud is in a long tube, and it pumps out through the head with a turning off and on by air. It's a piston inside.
Okay.
And you can turn it on, and you just walk down the wall, let the switch go, and it stops the flow. And you look it up on YouTube, Aplatech, APLA, Aplatech.
Is it still?
It's nerd. I found it. It's
still
available.
It's still available. It's still a tool. Okay, interesting.
The continuous flow was another neat thing too, though.
That's different. That's different than the Aplatech. And we were also talking about the difference between a flusher and an angle head. In my ignorance, I was like, I had a glazer when I was coming up. We glaze the angles, and then you pop the glazer off and you put it on the angle box, and then you box the angles and you fill in your void. Like now there's like flushers and all of this semi-automatic tools, which are really cool.
Those are for those guys that don't want to go complete to automatic tools. I think
they're like training tools.
Yeah, exactly. I like the flushers. I have a few of them from Can-Am, from Wolfgang.
Okay.
And I use them on remodels because they work really well as far as filling the corners for uneven stuff. That's old versus new texture on that one side, or not texture, and the flushers seem to leave more mud, so it covers better. Yeah, but the angle tool, I think when we discussed this before, I think that's the coolest tool that was ever made for drywall, is how to finish an angle on both sides at the same time, and to make it look so sharp. It just looks good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are down in Florida right now. You're working with Kelly's Quality Drywall.
Yep.
And I mean, are you pretty much just helping run the crews, do estimates?
Yeah, that's what we're
quality control.
Yeah, quality control. That's what it is. And I have the texture machine, the 150-gallon rig, that pull behind rig that and then I'll probably end up texturing a lot of them myself.
That's what the big bosses do. They drive around.
Yeah, exactly. That's That's right. The guy I started with, that's all he did was texture.
When I worked in Sierra Vista, I was finishing 8 cents a square foot.
Oh,
they got a kick out of me. The Mexican guys really got a kick out of me. I was finishing myself. I had to learn the bazooka. Like I knew how to run the boxes, but I didn't know how to run the bazooka, and I had to learn it. And I was finishing whole houses in like a week, like 12-hour days, 8 cents a square foot. I could squeeze like maybe $8 an hour. At my best, if the house was simple, at my absolute fastest. And the big boss drives around with the texture machine on the back. What do you guys do with that texture machine? I mean, what does it take you 2 hours? You go in and blow out a house?
Yep.
And so it's more efficient for you to do that than to pay somebody. That's why the big boss drives around with the texture machine.
Well, I think also, too, it gives me the last opportunity to look at it to make sure things are right. You know,
now, are you one of those? Are you a jerk? Do you go around and like circle shit and you're like, I ain't texturing that house? Those guys. I'm gonna go.
I worked for guys that had a pencil on a piece of PVC pipe and would actually mark stuff on the ceiling.
The boss's son.
Are you kidding me?
The boss's son. I have Sun Drywall in Sierra Vista. So I was busting my ass finishing these damn houses. The boss's son would come around and they would pull me off the next job to come back and look at this shit. And I mean, I was a prima donna and I was cocky, but I was like trying to make a buck, and I'm walking around going like, are you shitting me, dude? And my finish work was good and I was fast, and I was like, are you shitting me right now? You're bringing me back here. So finally on one of the jobs, the boss's son was always the guy doing it, drives around in the nice truck with his little pencil on a stick. And I walked through the house with him and I was pointing shit out. I was like, well, if you're marking that, you better mark this over here too. And we walked through that house with a fine-tuned comb. He marked the shit out of it. And I was like, okay, have fun fixing it. And I quit. And I went to work. If you're listening, you don't have to put up with that. Like I went the same day, I went to the next drywall company and they gave me a job because I was good at what I did. And I knew I was good. And you don't have to put up with assholes, man. You just don't. But that's kind of a funny, you kind of have to have balls to like walk off the job, but we're drywallers. We're a little crazy, but you're not like that.
There was a time where you could do that. If you didn't like who you were with, you could just walk down the next subdivision and it was a different drywall contractor and you just got a job with them. And it's similar to that right now. I mean, it's going, really, really strong now here in Florida. We're back up to building, not prior 2009, 2008. It's not that like that. That was, I think, was an anomaly, but it's going good again. I mean, when I go outside, I can hear the nail guns going off in the roofs, and I know that the guys are up there, they're going on, so.
Yep. So when you leave your home and go down south, are you giving up work? So you are traveling down South Florida from 3 hours or whatever to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are you giving up work in your area to go get better paying work? Is that why you're traveling?
Somewhat. I guess you could say that there's an opportunity here. The work probably could go on here for a couple years, I'm sure. I don't know that I would be interested in that, but there's an opportunity here. Who knows how it goes? We're just kind of baby steps into this thing to see what happens between me and Terry Kelly, Kelly's Quality Drywall, to see what happens, if
okay.
And both of us have similar personalities. We don't mind talking to people, I think, and we answer the phone, we return phone calls, we show up when we're supposed to. I think that has a lot to do with it, because a lot of people are not getting calls back. They're just, well, we're too busy. They won't even answer the phone. So we'll see. This is kind of, like I said, see what happens. If it works.
Do you have a method? Are you wanting to stack up a bunch of work?
Yeah, that would be it. That would be where I could just go in, and and we could get the hangers and finishers going, and then I'd just come behind them, either start texturing, or who knows how big it gets. We could hire a texture guy, and I could just go run to get the next job, so.
Okay.
Just physically, I'm at the twilight. I tell everybody I'm 56, but in drywall years I'm 76. There's nothing. I feel like there's nothing. You think, well, you've been in so long in drywall that you know everything, but that's not the case for me. I look to see a new technique, or I look for a new tool. That's a great idea. That's, somebody's, matter of fact, I feel like I came up with the orange peel in a can years ago, but I never had anything to really do with it. It just, I thought, why wouldn't we have something aerosol that you could spray for repair work, and sure enough, Homex comes up with it. It just, I spent a long time trying to figure out how I could do that, where you could bring in minimal for doing repairs. You want as minimal as possible. And, but yeah, it's fun for me. It's fun to see new guys doing it on YouTube, guys doing it on Instagram. Phil from PRC. Mm-hmm. Did you meet him yet? Did you meet Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah, you met him at CSR. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a good dude and a good musician. And you're a musician really nice. Too, aren't you, Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hit it off. We talked about music. He's probably Phil, of the people that I've seen online, him and Brad Hanna, I mean, those guys are, that's about as good. That's about as good as it gets. Like, their work is impeccable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Both Brad and Brad's looks. I always comment on what his looks like. It's like it's symmetrical perfect. And everything is perfect. It does. It looks good. Yeah. And he hasn't been doing it that long. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, Brad hasn't been doing it that long, or either that or he's just learning the tools. In the last few years. Yeah. They would be a good interview. Brad's a character, though, man. He's got his opinions.
We got along really well, Brad and I, and all those guys, man, just so nice. And the guys at CSR and Christy Slade, and
Did
we'll
meet
probably
Stefano?
Maybe I did.
Kind of bald. He's a little shorter guy, bald. Hilarious. He's just got a natural.
I think I did. I met Brian and Nick with Drywall Nation.
Oh, you met Brian? Yeah. I met Brian at the Brian when he was with Nick, his partner Nick, at the International Builder Show a few years back. And I've been in touch back and forth with Brian. One of the original Drywall Nation members when he started that thing. I just love. I think they kind of start. I think they're the ones who kind of kicked the whole thing into gear, really, for us as drywall guys, as Drywall Nation. They put the drywall guys on the map, and then everybody jumping on, Phil and Brad and Stefano and these other guys.
Yeah. I think the Columbia guys gave them legs with the ambassador program and all of that. People were like, "Hey, man, why are these guys getting new tools?"
Yeah. I can't thank Columbia enough. They took, even though it was, like I said, during COVID that I became the ambassador. They took such good care of me. They're such good people, and I appreciate everything they did. Shout out to Aaron and his brother and Bernie, those guys. And then I dealt with their IG girl. I can't remember her name now, but Jill. Whatever I needed, I just DM'd them and I got a hold of her, and she just took care of it. I'm the kind of guy, that gets in the line at the grocery store behind the person that's playing with change, or try. Or trying to buy beer with food stamps. I don't know how I'd end up with
right. Sometimes interviews are interesting. There's different challenges. What I do with the Drywall podcast is challenging, and dropping a show every week is challenging.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure
and sometimes I do interviews and there's no hangups at all, and sometimes I do them and there's a bunch of hangups. Right. So, Corey with the Tech Dry tool, have you seen that?
Tech Try. Is that the little foldable
Yeah,
knife? Yeah.
little
Yeah.
foldable
Yeah.
knife.
Yeah, I got it. I bought it as soon as I saw it. I'm one of the as soon as I saw
That's
it,
awesome.
I'm like, that's awesome. Let me have that because I would buy the
It's
plastic knives
great.
and cut them
Yeah,
to size, and I
but now
still
you
do that.
got one knife you can just stick in your pocket, man.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and it's like, why didn't I come up with that?
So
It's just
I did an interview with him. I don't know
mm,
if you've heard that one yet. Have you heard that one?
no,
So we did the entire interview and I didn't record it. Like I was like, dude, I don't have the energy to do another one. We'll have to reschedule. And we
yeah,
rescheduled and just did another one. And I was like, dude, we'll do another one. We'll do this until it
oh
works,
my goodness,
So podcasting is hard. There's a lot of tenacity, just like
yeah.
marketing a product or anything.
Hmm.
You got to stick with
Yeah,
it, man.
I looking forward to uh the future of drywall to see where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Have we reached is there something else out there that I mean, I even saw that drywall robot hanging drywall thing. Did you see that in Japan? They came up with that
No,
drywall
they
robot.
have a finishing robot though. It's called Canvas.
Oh, really?
And I've talked to their
Really?
marketing rep. Yeah, they're on LinkedIn a lot, and
Okay.
they're selling finishing robots to larger commercial companies, drywall companies, and it like sprays the mud on and then like floats it out.
Oh my goodness.
Let it run all night.
Yeah, yeah. Never argue with you and always show up. I mean,
Doesn't doesn't
wow.
doesn't drink.
Yep. Yep. No drinking. You don't have to bail them out of jail on Monday morning.
Right,
Just
right. Yes, you
wow.
know the drill. So
Yep.
Sean Murray, where are we gonna go from here? You are been in the trade a long time.
Yep.
What is your? We'll dive into the pearl of wisdom. So you've got some episodes though. Before that, you've got some episodes to listen to. It sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I listened to Columbia guys. And did you interview Brian? Did you get Drywall Nation on here at all? I didn't see that in the log. No, he's
He
another
won't.
one that's probably a prima donna, too
Oh
busy to
yeah,
talk.
he's too
Yeah,
busy.
he would be a great talk though, because
Yeah.
he's like I said, I attribute this whole IG thing to them, Brian and Nick. I don't think they work together anymore, Brian and Nick. I think Nick's on his own now, and Brian's just doing the Drywall Nation.
There's a whole story
So
there.
yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure there is.
We would save
Mm-hmm.
that for him to talk about.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So
I'll keep
uh,
bugging him.
yeah. Yeah, I'll bug him too now. I'll tell him to get him on the podcast. I think we need to hear him. We need to
Yeah.
hear all these guys, even Phil and Brad. We need to hear from them. It would be because you see them on Instagram and you see them for 30 seconds, and then which is kind of cool. But it would be neat to hear where they came from, how they
Yeah.
started, who you know, what made them take IG. What made them think to go to Instagram. And
I mean,
that.
Phil and I would probably, yeah, we would talk about Columbia, but we would probably talk about
Yep.
music and stuff too.
Oh yeah, and that's a big thing for me. Music is I learned the guitar when I was very young and played,
Okay.
but I love music.
Yeah.
I got my 23-year old son listening to Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, and he buys albums now. And I said,
Perfect.
yes, son, I had them all. You're not showing
Yeah.
me anything new.
I just started collecting records,
Yep.
and my wife got me for Christmas. It's a Led Zeppelin
Oh,
it's a Led Zeppelin record, but it's like it has live from some French. No, it's like a live recording, and then it has some other stuff. It's three records, and it's awesome.
oh wow.
It's like
Oh
stuff
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
stuff it's not released on any other stuff except for this
Oh
record.
really?
This particular
Oh, my
record.
son
Yeah,
would love that.
Jimmy Page will release stuff really obscurely like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember my son letting me hear some he's like, Dad, you ever hear Pink Floyd? I said, yes, yes, son. And he would play things, and he'd play songs, and I'm like, wait a minute, that song doesn't come after that song or this. I said, son, stop. I said, you have to, with Pink Floyd, you have to start at the beginning and just let it go. Like Dark Side of the Moon has a story to it. Same thing with The Wall. I said, it starts and ends. I said, and he goes, really? I said, yes. Don't mess with it. Don't try to jump around. Just let it go.
I just saw online that The Wall has has an Easter egg at the very end of it where it says something like, "Isn't this the way we came in?" Like at the and then at the very beginning it says something like, and it's very subtle. You have to really listen, but it says, you know, this is the way we came in, and then at the end it says, so it's a full loop.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. But what you know, it's just I think that goes together with drywall guys. You go on a drywall guy on a job site, he's got his radio going. I think it gets you going. I think it gets you fuel to go, you know, and so yeah, Phil's a very good musician though. I heard that, you know, he released a song or an album that I got downloaded, and it's not necessarily my taste, but it's you can see his musicianship in it. It's very good.
Yeah. Punk rock, right?
Yeah, it's like a punk. Yeah, I'm very much the classic rock guy, you know, and
me too.
And then then Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and those guys too, you know. So
what is your pearl of wisdom?
What's a pearl of wisdom? I would say never think you know everything about the trade. You can always learn something from somebody. I can think of techniques that I've learned from guys that may have not been in as long as I have, but he learned a different technique, and I why not? Wow, that's better than the way I was taught. How do you use it? You know. Yeah. There's guys out there. I worked with an old fellow one time that had a cigar in his mouth all the time. We called him the drywall doctor. He was old. I mean, I could run circles around him, but I tell you what, I learned from watching him, you know, taking a couple minutes to do a butt joint, but I saw a technique that I'm like, oh wow, I see what he's doing, you know. So you can always learn from something from somebody.
The best guys I learned from were in the union, and they were slow. They were slow and methodical, and it was always the butt joints. Like
and he was a union carpenter. He was a union drywall guy when he was in Florida, which was not union, but we were all working on a hotel together, and I saw his unit. I'm like, oh man. So I would watch him. I would stay and watch him because like I said, a drywall nerd. I want to learn it all. I want to, you know, there's guys out there that can do it better than I can. I always thought that because I was left-handed and we're little artists, left-handed people are, that I thought that's the reason why, you know, my wife used to joke around with me, and she says, you're the butt joint master of the universe. And I'm like,
you heard it here first. Sean's wife says he's the butt joint master.
I said, I don't know if I like that, being called that or not. Do you remember when Roseanne was a big show? You know that her John Goodman was a drywall guy in that, and I remember.
I never knew that he was a drywall guy.
Drywall guy, and he actually in one of the episodes came out and said, "I'm the drywall master of the universe." He had one episode.
That's funny.
He was a drywall guy before he went to. I think he owned a motorcycle shop, but he was a drywall guy for the early years of that show.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that makes sense. They're like, blue collar.
Yeah, exactly. And he definitely, he looked like my first boss, the size of him and everything. I mean,
yeah. We had a guy when I worked in Crested Butte called Big Dave, and just like 5/8, 12 foot sheet, boom, screw it off with one hand.
Yeah. It's funny you say that about that. There's a crew that I used to hang for us, and he was a 5-man crew hanging, and it was like poetry in motion watching those guys. 2 guys did ceilings, 2 guys did walls, 1 guy wrapped the closets and the windows. And 1 guy scrapped out. I mean, it was just literal poetry in emotion.
And you know what? It would take years to get to, but it would be fun to work with a crew like that, hanging.
Yes.
Like hanging doesn't really appeal to me, but if you had a crew like that, it'd be fun.
Yes.
Like those guys always hung ahead of us, and they were that way. There was 3 of them.
Yes.
And they were good. And then we finished behind them. They would finish 2, but we would finish behind them, and we'd all finish the house and texture together. But just next level.
It's poetry in motion.
Yeah.
One guy, one fellow we had would go in and take 2 measurements in a room and then cut all the boards for the room for his guys. I'm like, what, Charlie, where do you get this from? He goes, no, I just take this and this and this. And I'm like, yeah, you got to slow down here. And you know, I guarantee you, Charlie didn't even have a high school diploma, but when he hung drywall, there was like nothing I've ever seen before, you know?
Idiot savant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be careful. Sean Murray says, be careful. You know, don't think that you know too much. There's always room for improvement. There's always room to learn new tools, try new things. Thank you so much for being on the Drywall podcast today. I appreciate it. This has been great. And you know, we've had some hiccups, but this is a great talk. I could talk to you. You know, we could go in all kinds of different directions and just keep talking for forever. So
I'd like to do it again. Do it again. Maybe it would be cool to. Like we talked about. I'd love to come out there and learn that. That could be a way where I wouldn't have to do a whole lot of finishing and heavy duty work anymore. You know.
Yeah, and also, so if you haven't listened to the recent podcast, I talk with Cam about him coming out and training. We do a follow-up interview, and
perfect.
And so that's the last podcast. I'll share it with you.
Okay. No, I got you on. I found it on Podbean. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, I found it, and I started going back and listening to them. That's where I found Daniels and Christie's and.
Cool.
You know. And I think another thing I was thinking is that girls make great drywall finishers too. Girls have attention to detail.
Yeah, they're good.
Detail.
Tell Kelly I said hi. You have a fantastic rest of your day.
All right.
And we'll look for you. We'll look for you down the path, man.
All right, Nick. Take care, buddy. Thank you.
All right, take it easy. You
Appreciate
bet.
it.
Special thanks to Sean Murray for being on the Drywall podcast today. I appreciate it. I'm sure our listeners appreciate it. You can listen to this podcast in its entirety on platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and also Podbean. The Drywall Podcast was brought to you today by Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. If you'd like information about the Drywall Podcast, Fresco Harmony, or anything, you can reach out to me directly at info@frescoharmony.com. Thank you so much for joining us on the Drywall Podcast today. I appreciate it. Join us next week as we will have Kevin Bush, author of Adventure in Drywall, with us. Until then, keep drywalling.